Hey friends, just popping on Facebook here to talk about preparing your soul for Thanksgiving. And, who knows where you are this Wednesday morning before this holiday, whether you are hosting or traveling, man, there's a lot of prep work involved. And I just have memories of pulling up to so many Thanksgiving tables, having done all this work and being ready and showing up, and then just my heart being, I don't know, maybe unsettled in some ways, distracted or down. And so I just thought I would throw out just a few minutes on how to prepare your heart for the Thanksgiving table. And even if you had a few moments, like what kind of questions could you ask yourself in an effort to re-engage with God and with yourself? In the ancient world, the table was really an image of intimate connection. In Revelation, Jesus referred to the table as as an inside soul encounter. He said, listen to these words. Listen, Jesus says, I am standing at the door knocking. I mean, imagine that. Just imagine it. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to you and eat with you and you with me. Oh man, I mean, just to be sitting across the table from Jesus, his kindness, his provision, his setting this table, his compassionate face towards you. So there's two questions that really fall from the Emmaus story in Luke 24 that I was going to put in front of you. And I think you know the story, and I want you to use your imagination with the story as you think about a table that is set in your heart. There are two followers of Jesus walking to a village. This was just after the death and resurrection of Christ. And as they are walking to the village, they're talking and they're kind of processing the things that had happened. And then Jesus starts to walk with them, appears and starts to walk with them, but they don't recognize him. So Jesus asks them, what are you talking about? And they're like, hey, where have you been? Like, haven't you heard of the things? And they started to unpack the story. And Jesus asked this one question in the midst of this. And he asked this, he said, what things are you talking about? And then they continued on with the story. But that really grabbed my attention when Jesus said, what things are you talking about? Because Jesus knew, obviously, he wasn't playing a joke on them. So why did he ask those questions? And I think it's an interesting idea to look at all the questions that Jesus asked. But I think he asked that to uncover their pain, to help them discover their soul deep hunger, to really set a table for them, to dine with the resurrected Lord. And this is one thing I've learned, and I'm 48 years old, I've been around, but I have a long way to go. But loss sets a table for us. Loss sets a table for us. The tables set for gain are generally flipped over by Jesus. I mean, we see that in the temple when people were selling things. Jesus flipped those tables over. But even with the Last Supper, that was surrounded by quite a bit of loss. Jesus was suggesting he is going to the cross. So loss sets a table for us. And I think that's what was happening there. And that's my first question to throw out in front of you is, what is your loss going into this Thanksgiving holiday? What is your pain? What is your soul deep pain, if you're really honest? What has your death-like experience been this year, this month, this week, this morning? And pain may be a strong word. It could just be something really bothering you. Just to put your finger on that. What is really bothering you? What is eating at you? If I were to ask this question, what is my pain? I mean, today, I'll be honest. I was standing next to Luke in the kitchen yesterday, and the kid has grown. I mean, like the night before, I think he grew like an inch. You know how that is. But he was standing tall next to me, and I was with him, and he's just getting taller. And I just thought, man, my dad would trip out with how tall Luke has gotten. And I mean, Dad passed 10 years ago. But that's just a little, that just hurts, a little bit. And that's okay. And I think what Jesus does when he asks us that question is permission is granted for you to engage with your pain, with your struggle, with whatever is bothering you. Jesus, even in Luke 24, mentions how suffering was a part of the journey for the Messiah. That's just really fascinating to me. So the two kept walking, and Jesus was walking with them, and night began to get closer, and they were just like, hey, I don't even know who you are, but if you want to come and stay with us, please do. And they continued to talk all the way to Emmaus, all the way to their table. And then Jesus sat with them at the table. And listen, I just have to read a couple verses here. When Jesus was at the table with them, he took the bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were open, and they recognized him. And he vanished from their sight. And they said to each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us? Broken bread. I wonder if there's some symbolism there with our broken lives, with the broken life of Christ, that being a part of the table set by loss, that Jesus is actually entering into our soul, our depths through brokenness. Brokenness is openness. So my second question really is, as I've considered in preparing my soul for the holidays, is that of recognizing Jesus. And I see that with their hearts burned within them as they were considering who this person is. So the second question is this: what if you receive Christ's resurrection as a reality? As a reality. Dallas Willard said, the way of Christ is a way of firsthand interaction, divine, direct awareness of him and his kingdom. So what if this is a reality that you can ponder as you drive today, or as you set up a table, a meal? What if you really considered, what if the resurrected Christ was a reality in my life? The two men went to Jerusalem after all this, and they announced that Jesus made himself known to them in the breaking of bread. It says that in verse 35. It's like Easter. It's kind of like, it's so stupid. It's kind of like Easter with a Thanksgiving table. Easter really is every month. So just in concluding, how to prepare your soul for Thanksgiving, consider the question, what is your pain? Consider the question, what if you receive Christ's resurrection as a reality? Maybe go for a short walk. You can't do a 4-hour walk to Emmaus, but maybe a short walk, maybe a prayer, maybe just a few minutes of just sitting and staring at the trees that have both bare branches and colorful leaves on them. Maybe just be with Jesus at the table. Maybe use your imagination in a very good way and consider these two questions. When Jesus sat with those two, when he sits with us, Jesus becomes host. And when it comes to our spiritual life and our soul and our growth and our formation, Jesus is always host. And I love this book called Living the Resurrection by Eugene Peterson. And I'm just going to end just with this idea of Jesus is host. Jesus is host always. We are never in charge of our spiritual formation. We don't decide the menu. We don't customize the details according to our tastes and appetites. But at the same time, we are completely present and participatory, engaged in the actual formation by resurrection itself. So friends, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Identify your pain. Remember that Christ is actually here. And maybe in some ways, and this is going to sound weird, but maybe in some way, as I was standing tall next to Luke and he was standing tall next to me, and we're smiling and seeing who's taller, that maybe our friend Jesus was there standing with us and just being with us. So I'm going to go now. Thank you for listening. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for supporting my work. If you want to know more about it, it's at gracegreensboro.org. And yeah, take care.